How good is bonus damage and damage reduction? Well, these stats are designed for certain classes, so let me explain how they work and which classes can use them best. Okay, let's start with the basics. So bonus damage increases your damage by a flat value per hit. So for example, imagine you're using Guillotine Blade and you deal 10,000 damage. If you add now 10 bonus damage to your equip, then your total damage becomes 10,010 damage. So you just deal 10 additional damage. I know that sounds not much, and it is also not much. It's only 0.1% additional damage. Okay, now let's confirm that on an actual example. On the left video we have 0 bonus damage and we deal with Guillotine Blade 6,569 damage. And the clip on the right we have 13 bonus damage and here we deal 6,582 damage. Because we have 13 more bonus damage, we just deal here additional 13 damage. And of course I balanced here all my stats out, so in both cases we have the exact same stats except the additional 13 bonus damage. But important is that bonus damage applies per hit we are doing. So for example, a skill like Crossfire hits up to 4 times. On each hit we are doing, we're adding up those 13 damage. So again, on the left you can see me using the skill with no bonus damage, and here each crit deals 158 damage. On the right side I have 13 bonus damage and each crit deals 171 damage. So again, just 13 damage more, but each of those hits will deal additional 13 damage. Okay, the more hits we are doing, the more useful our bonus damage gets. Okay, but maybe you ask yourself now, what counts as hits? And that's pretty simple, it's just every damage number you see on your screen. For example, Crossfire shows 4 damage numbers, so it counts as 4 hits. Heavy attacks have only 1 damage number with a ×2. So this is 1 damage number, so it counts as a single hit. Then you have the offhand weapon chance, which produces 2 damage numbers, so it counts as 2 hits, and so on. However, what is important here to mention is that bonus damage does not affect damage over time effects. Of course, that would be a little bit broken. Okay, let's come to damage reduction. Damage reduction works the exact same way, but in reverse. It reduces incoming damage by a flat value per hit. So if we again take our Guillotine example, if another player hits us with a spell for 10k damage, then 10 damage reduction would reduce the damage to 9,990 damage. Okay, again let's jump here into an example. On the left video I have 0 damage reduction and the Guillotine Blade hits me for 4,870 crit damage. And on the right I have 5 damage reduction and therefore this skill hits for 5,865 damage, so just 5 damage less. Okay, but the same as for bonus damage, damage reduction applies here per hit. Against multiple hit skills, it reduces the damage for each hit. However, again, it does not affect dots. So some players believe bonus damage and damage reduction involve complex multipliers or hidden mechanics. This is just simply not true. Both stats simply add or subtract a flat value per hit. Okay, now the question, who benefits from these stats? Okay, of course bonus damage is most effective on classes that land multiple hits. So to make it simple, if your damage numbers look like this, then bonus damage can be good. But if your damage numbers look like this, then you don't want bonus damage. And there are only a few high attack speed builds that do so many hits that it makes actually sense to build bonus damage. For the most part, those builds always include a crossbow. Of course, a lot of weapons have a single spell that benefits from bonus damage, but that's usually not enough. From the bow strafing, for example, scales excellent with bonus damage, because you're doing so many hits with a skill. But that's also the only skill from the bow that's actually good with bonus damage. And just because of the skill, you're not going for bonus damage. So you really need to do a lot of hits. Otherwise, there's most of the time for sure a better alternative. Okay, let's come to damage reduction. Damage reduction is most effective against enemies or skills that deal many hits. If crossbow players benefit from bonus damage, then it's of course also good to build damage reduction against them. But for the most part you only see tanks building it. Why? Because most tanks are stacking endurance, which makes enemy crit less often, which reduces of course the damage of each hit they are doing. Then they have really high defense values from their armor and their skills, which again decreases the damage of each hit they are getting. On top of that, tanks can passively block 40% of an attack using the block chance provided by the sword and shield. And this again reduces the overall damage they're getting per hit. And then of course the impact of your damage reduction is way higher. That's why as a tank you often see so many zeros when someone attacks you. So especially if you play an endurance tank, and then damage reduction is always good for you. Okay, so damage reduction is clearly very good for tanks. But is it also good for other classes? And I would say no, it's not really effective. If it comes naturally with your build, then it's okay. But if you have to sacrifice something for it, it's really worth it. Okay, that's everything you need to know about bonus damage and damage reduction. I hope this guide clarified how these stats work and helped you to decide when and where to use them. If you still have questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you liked the video and want to support me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see ya in the next one.